Oh yeah, here, let's talk about the Patagonia founder.
Behind the world-renowned company, famous for outdoor clothing and gear, is 83-year-old Yvon Chouinard, a climber, surfer, and lifelong environmentalist who just gave away his estimated $3 billion business, born from blacksmithing in a shed. His family transferred ownership of Patagonia to a trust and nonprofit organization created to funnel all of the apparel company's profits to fight climate change and defend nature. Instead of going public, you could say we're going purpose, Chouinard wrote in a public letter. Instead of extracting value from nature and transforming it into wealth for investors, we'll use the wealth Patagonia creates to protect the source of all wealth. The reluctant billionaire has never been swayed by business norms, even encouraging consumers to limit their spending at his company.
You know, you've heard of recycle and reuse, stuff like that. You also have to consider refuse. Refuse to buy something just because, you know, if you don't need it, don't buy it.
For decades,
would have been a lot better if he gave the company to the workers. Yeah. Certainly. Adam Conover, guess what? Billionaire who donated Patagonia to fight climate change will get a $700 million tax break, still control the company, spend the donated dollars to influence U.S. politics. Billionaire philanthropy is a scam, tax the rich. A truly charitable donation would have been to donate Patagonia or its proceeds to a nonprofit already working in the space, or hell, donate the dollars directly to those in need via Give Directly. Instead, he donated it to himself to spend as he sees fit. That's not charity. So, the system itself is designed in this way. That's not what the New York Times piece I saw said. I said he wouldn't get any tax benefit and give up all ownership. So here's what I'm going to say. No, people think that this is immediately like a Bill Gates style scam. There is a difference. And I don't think Adam Conover is correct on this. I hate to say it. Okay. There's a difference between taking your company and reforming it so that like all of the profits are direct donations, which I think is what he's doing. He'll probably still get paid a tight bag, right, for surviving in the way that he wants to live. But there's a difference between that and like doing what Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates have done, which is to set up a nonprofit basically to shelter all of their assets within that nonprofit. I don't think he's getting any income from it going forward. His kids still work for the company though. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's not getting paid by the company at all anymore, but yes, he has enough money to not have to worry about money. Yeah, but I think he's doing like I do think that this is a decent thing that he did. This is not like, this doesn't strike me as, I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is one of those very unique instances where it doesn't seem like he's doing this for immediate benefits. Like, there's always going to be some benefits, and he definitely is still, you know, he still made the bag for many, many years, right? But as far as like billionaires goes, and the system itself should not rely on billionaires being magnanimous. I've said this so many times. This is a fundamental plank of my idea and the way I see the world, right? The system itself should not only be the system itself should not have such concentration of wealth and power at the top that the only time when someone is like the only time when good things are happening is when rich people have allowed it to happen, right? Like I myself do what is right all the time as well. I try to do what's right all the time. But that does not change the reality that, it should be like that. I talked about this with Andrew Schultz a lot as well. It should not be reliant on rich people behaving in the appropriate way, because the overwhelming majority of rich people, especially ones that get to that level of wealth, are not getting there by behaving in the right way. Rich people shouldn't be rewarded for just doing the right thing. No, you're misunderstanding it. I'm not even talking about this from just like automatic disdain for the rich. I'm saying that the system is fundamentally flawed because it relies on rich people individually deciding on their own to do the right thing, okay? Especially because so many people that get to that level of wealth are doing it by not doing the right thing. The Patagonia heiress today. Well, my grandpa gave my inheritance to Greenpeace. Yeah. I think even his children are like pretty woke though. A half a century after founding the outdoor apparel maker Patagonia, Yvon Chouinard, the eccentric rock climber who became a reluctant billionaire with his unconventional spin on capitalism, has given the company away. Rather than selling the company or taking it public, Mr. Chouinard, his wife, and 2 adult children have transferred their ownership of Patagonia, valued at $3 billion, to a specially designed trust and a nonprofit organization. They were created to preserve the company's independence and ensure that all of its profits, some $100 million a year, are used to combat climate change and protect undeveloped land around the globe. The unusual move comes at the moment of growing scrutiny for billionaires and corporations whose rhetoric about making the world a better place is often overshadowed by their contributions to the very problems they claim to want to solve. At the same time, Mr. Chenard's relinquishment of the family fortune is in keeping with his long-standing disregard for business norms and his lifelong love for the environment. Hopefully, this will influence a new form of capitalism that doesn't end up with a very few rich people and a bunch of poor people, Mr. Chenard, 83. Yeah, dude, why? Motherfucker cannot see the world. Even when you do something that is like unthinkable as like a rich billionaire, framework is still within the operations of capitalism. He's like, oh, let's just look at a different kind of capitalism. How about no capitalism? There is a different kind of capitalism. It's called not capitalism. It's called socialism. I'm just saying it'd be kind of cool to think about it that way. We are going to give away the maximum amount of money to people who are actively working on saving this planet. Patagonia will continue to operate as a private for-profit corporation based in Ventura, California, selling more than $1 billion worth of jackets, hats, and ski pants each year. But the Chenards, who control Patagonia until last month, no longer own the company. In August, the family irrevocably transferred all the company's voting stock, equivalent to 2% of overall shares, into a newly established entity known as the Patagonia Purpose Trust. The trust, which will be overseen by members of the family and their closest advisors, is intended to ensure that Patagonia makes good on its commitment to run a socially responsible business and give away its profits. Because the Chenards donated their shares to a trust, the family will pay about $17.5 million in taxes on the gift. The Chenards then donated the other 98% of Patagonia, its common shares, to a newly established nonprofit organization. Bro, how do you expect a billionaire to be anti-capitalist, naive Hasan? I mean, what he's doing in this circumstance, if he's doing it appropriately and not like a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation style asset sheltering, basically, is technically, doing something that is liquidating all of your capital and giving it to other causes instead, which will not be the recipient of all the company's profits and use funds to combat climate change because the Holdfast Collective is a 501c4, which allows it to make unlimited political contributions. The family received no tax benefit for its donation. Under the narrow framework of capitalism, you're not going to get anything better than that. And a billionaire itself is probably only going to, a billionaire themselves, or who have generated billions of dollars in revenue, are only going to get to that point through exploitation, through a series of exploitative practices. It might still be good, okay? It might still be better than like 99% of corporations. Acting like compassionate capitalism is not possible is irrational. Acting like it will become the norm is equally so. Quite literally, the point of capitalism is for the wealthiest individuals to make money off the poorest and sacrificing all other standards. There's no such thing as ethical capitalism. Yeah, no, this is a perfect example, okay? Recognizing all profit is extracted from nature is honestly a huge step, something which is honestly very anti-capitalist on its own merit, yes. And not only that, but also doing it in this way where he's like relinquishing all of the wealth, especially because he's like, I already got the bag. This is it. You know what I mean? Didn't Gates and a bunch of billionaires commit to donating most of their wealth? Well, one can only see what they end up doing with this contribution. One nice billionaire doesn't make up for hundreds of evil ones. I agree. There was a meaningful cost to them doing it, but it was a cost they were willing to bear to ensure that this company stays true to their principles. A merchant bank that works with ultra-wealthy individuals, including Warren Buffett, and who helped Patagonia design their new structure, and they didn't get a charitable deduction for it. There is no tax benefit here whatsoever. But of course, leftists are doing the one thing that we always love doing, which is like, here's a guy who's like doing something that's a little bit different. Here's a guy who's doing at least something that's a little bit different than like what billionaires at their status normally don't even think about doing, and defend it. And you're like, we should kill this one first. Okay, kill him. Like, it's just like, this doesn't change the system itself. Billionaires across the board are a policy failure. He himself is already recognizing that, it seems like. You know what I mean? Like, this is what other motherfuckers do. Bear Sade, the Republican donor, okay, who literally took his company, turned it into a 501c4, and dumped it into the Federalist Society. Meanwhile, this motherfucker is doing it. This motherfucker is doing it for conservation efforts, something that he's like personally cared about his entire life. And you're like, nah, it's not enough. This guy. It's just overall, it seems like an overall good thing, okay? Patagonia also doesn't seem to use sweatshops and have a low turnover rate in employees, so at least compared to other billionaires, he seems good. You have changed. Hasan says, respect the reluctant billionaire. Publish this. Whoopsie, I became a billionaire. I exploited my workers. Whoops. No, I recognize all of that. No billionaire can get to that level of wealth without a profound amount of exploitation. That's just the truth. Okay, that is the system that we exist under. And if someone within that framework, someone who has achieved a profound amount of success by taking advantage of that system, decides to, change their own personal outlook on it and literally, do something that many other people would not choose to do, and no one in his level of wealth has done. Okay, and that's why you're probably seeing that's why you're seeing the Bloombergs of the world. Do they not want him to fight climate change? No, leftists always got to be the kid in class who raises his hands and corrects every little thing. By giving away the bulk of their assets during their lifetime, the Chouinards, Yvonne, his wife Melinda, and their two children, Fletcher and Claire, who are both in their 40s, have established themselves among the most charitable families in the country. This family is a way outlier when you consider that most billionaires give only a tiny fraction of their net worth away every year. Even those who have signed, by the way, again, charitable donations do not fix the problem, okay? Charitable donations and billionaires doing charity does not actually fix the problem itself. Obviously. And I hope that you're not thinking that I'm making that argument in any capacity, because that is not correct. But as far as like working within the framework, instead of like drastically working to undermine the current pre-existing hierarchies of exploitative capitalist practices, which is the best thing you can do, like it would be better if he gave away. Here's what would have been better from a leftist perspective. If he actually engaged in profit sharing with his workers, allowed it to run, maybe not as a cooperative, but at least like with some workers' council or some unionization that then down to the very smallest, like first level, entry level employee had some say in what the philanthropy operates as, right? Then that would be better, okay? That would have been a better way to do this. And then those people might have even voted to, yes, still take all of those take all those profits and turn them directly into combating climate change. So obviously, the fact that he did this as an individual decision by himself, a byproduct of the system. It's not necessarily his individual fault. He did have the capacity to be more magnanimous, right, than he is currently. He exploited his workers, built massive wealth, and gets to jerk off in his charitable fame now. From a leftist perspective, of course, he'll get hate. Yes, I'm already telling you exactly how he could have structured his business. He was not a capitalist himself. But of course, a fucking billionaire is going to still be capitalist. They're a fucking billionaire. I'm recognizing that and then telling you that this is the best it's going to get within the same narrow framework. He is literally a billionaire. I don't know why you are. The irony of a leftist taking the reactionary view. I mean, I'm not. I don't think I'm taking a reactionary view here. Wait, what? Chatters are doing the same thing that they always do, where they are jumping down the throat of someone who is marginally better than others in this situation. Don't do that, okay? Now, what can happen in this situation, definitely didn't have Hasan defending a billionaire on my Twitch bingo. I'm not defending him. What I'm simply stating is, if this 501c4 works in the way that he promised that it would, and I have no reason to suspect that it won't, considering like how much he seemingly cares about this sort of thing and what some of the words he has mentioned are, okay? Unless he's just using this as a tax shelter so that he just dumps all the funds back into his own pockets, pays himself out like insane non-taxable funds. Even those who have signed the giving pledge don't give away that much and tend to get richer every year, Mr. Callahan added, referring to the commitment by hundreds of billionaires to give away the bulk of their fortunes. Patagonia has already donated $50 million to the Holdfast Collective and expects to contribute another $100 million this year. Mr. Mosley said the story was unlike any other he had seen in my career in my 30 years of estate planning. What the Chouinard family has done is really remarkable. It's irrevocably committed. They can't take it back out again, and they don't want to take it back out again. For Mr. Chouinard, it was even simpler than that, providing a satisfactory resolution to the matter of succession planning. I didn't know what to do with the company because I didn't ever want a company, he said from his home in Jackson, Wyoming. I didn't want to be a businessman. Now I could die tomorrow and the company is going to continue doing the right thing for the next 50 years and I don't have to think about it or be around it. They literally had to invent new ways to give away money for this shit. The company has given away 1% of its sales for decades, mostly to grassroots environmental activists, and in recent years, the company has become more politically active, going so far as to sue the Trump administration in a bid to protect the Bears Ears National Monument. Yet as Patagonia's sales soared, Mr. Chouinard's own net worth continued to climb, creating an uncomfortable conundrum for an outsider who abhors excessive wealth. I was in the Forbes magazine listed as a billionaire, which really pissed me off, he said. I don't have $1 billion in the bank. I don't drive Lexuses. The Forbes ranking and then the COVID-19 pandemic helped set in motion that a process that would unfold over the past 2 years and ultimately led to Chouinard's giving away the company. Yeah, he didn't even bring up a Bugatti. What a broke boy. The problem is that even though that the write-up is New York Times is glowing, the fact that he set up a trust structure Means that his family will remain in control of the company for perpetuity. Sure, it's better than other billionaires, but it's still a tax scam. The easiest path, selling the company or taking it public, would have given Mr. Chouinard ample financial resources to fund conservation initiatives. That was the strategy pursued by his best friend Doug Tompkins, founder of the clothing companies East Spirit and the North Face. But Mr. Chouinard had no faith that Patagonia would be able to prioritize things like worker well-being and funding climate action as a public company. Because then you would have a fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders, and you would have to set up a board of executives that would quite literally work to increase profits endlessly, and that would of course always mean reduce benefits as best as possible and exploit your workers further. I don't respect the stock market at all, he said. Once you're public, you've lost control over the company and you have to maximize profits for the shareholder, and then you become one of those irresponsible companies. They also considered simply leaving the company to Fletcher and Claire, but even that option didn't work because the children didn't want the company. It was important to them that they were not seen as financial beneficiaries. They felt very strongly about it. I know it can sound flippant, but they really embody this notion that every billionaire is a policy failure. Finally, the legal team and board members landed on a solution. In December, at a day-long meeting in the hills above Ventura, the entire team came together for the first time since the pandemic began. Meeting outside, they agreed to move ahead. We still had 1,000,001 other things to figure out, but it started to feel like this might actually work. Now that the future of Patagonia's ownership is clear, the company will have to make good on its lofty ambitions to simultaneously run a profitable corporation while tackling climate change. Some experts caution that without the Chouinard family having a financial stake in Patagonia, the company and the related entities could lose their focus. While the children... That's so funny. I don't get why we should tax the rich more, and also this guy's not so bad or hard thoughts for people to hold for people. I don't know. How could he make the business successful if there's no financial incentive anymore after a whole article about a guy who made a $3 billion company despite not caring about money? I swear my grandfather was a union organizer in Ventura, was good friends with Chouinard, and he definitely taught him and left his politics even if he is a billionaire. While the children remain on Patagonia's payroll and the elder Chouinards have enough to live comfortably on, the company will no longer be distributing any profits of the family. What makes capitalism so successful is that there is motivation to succeed, said Ted Clark, executive director of the Northeastern University Center for Family Business. If you take all financial incentives away, the family will have essentially no more interest in it except a longing for the good old days. How can a company maintain its interest in profit seeking if those profits are not going directly into their pockets, but instead to a trust fund that will work to improve conservation efforts? I mean, isn't that the incentive? He cares about that more than anything else. As for how the Holdfast Collective will distribute Patagonia's profits, Mr. Chouinard said much of the focus will be on nature-based climate solutions such as preserving wildlands. And as a 501c4, the Holdfast Collective will also be able to build on Patagonia's history of funding grassroots activists, but it could also lobby and donate for political campaigns. For the Chouinards, it resolves the question of what will happen to Patagonia after his founder is gone. Like, it's not great. The best thing to do is, like I said, set the company structure up in an entirely different way. If you don't care about the profits itself, the best way to eradicate profits is by allowing your workers to have a say in how it's distributed. Ultimately, I don't know, it being a 501c4 and not like a blind trust or something, or not even a blind trust, it's just, I don't know. Questions that reporters should ask Patagonia. Chouinard has created a 401c4 entity, which 501c4 I thought. Entity which enables them in small circle of family and advisors to spend $100 million a year in unrestricted funds on elections, lobbying, campaigns, and perpetuity. Holdfast Collective is the same category as Club for Growth, Americans for Prosperity, but guaranteed $100 million in spending a year. That's 2x, 4x what these groups are spending in 2022 elections. In the process, Chouinard not only avoids $700 billion in capital gains taxes from a sale of the company and estate taxes, but he plus his family, if they want to immediately leap off of Tom Steyer as the new financial kingmakers in the Democratic Party. It's easy to be blinded by Chouinard's good fight on climate action and land protection, but who elected him and a few other close advisors as a $100 million a year political power broker on these issues? And now Chouinard and his friends not only will be interfering in U.S. elections, but will also use land use decisions from across the global south, all in the name of what he defines as the good fight. Okay, again, the problem in this situation, the problem here revolves around, I mean, election interference is like kind of an interesting way to talk about it. It is true, right? No, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Except our scrutiny or our everything right now that people are feeling completely hinges on whether or not this dude is a good person or not. That's it. And guess what, guys? Sucks to suck, but unfortunately, in the system that we currently exist under, this is the best we can get. That's simply what I was trying to say. And I was actually trying to make a larger point about how We should not rely on billionaires behaving in a magnanimous capacity for the system to fix itself. Okay? That's it. That's how this works. That's how it works. He didn't dodge taxes and run away with the bag. He avoided taxes because he didn't even get the bag. He just straight up donoed the whole company. Yes, but as a 501c4, how much of the funds, which are all the which are basically all of the profits that they would normally be receiving, how much of that can he use to fund his own lifestyle? None, because he and his wife are not getting any more profits in the company per the article, only the kids who are still on the payroll, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm saying he still operates the trust, the 501c4. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a 501c4, so it's like a PAC. And a PAC still has working people within its structure. And if they're controlling exactly where the PAC goes and exactly where the spending goes, again, things that we don't know yet. He could technically fund his own pockets. He could technically take all of this and use it as his own personal slush fund. If he does that, he's not a good guy. But it doesn't seem like, looking at his past actions and looking at what he has said so far, it doesn't seem like he's going to do that. I'm pretty sure he can use it for personal use, but the criticism is that they can decide exactly how their money is used, even if it's for a good cause, which they could be woefully misinformed about. That was the issue with Bill Gates and his interference with public education. That is absolutely correct. And that is a byproduct of the working system that we operate inside of. You get it? That was what I was saying. That is always going to be the unfortunate byproduct of operating within a capitalist system. Okay? If you operate within a capitalist organization of the economy, yes, billionaires have all of the power. I understand that. I totally understand that. And I'm simply stating all of this hinges on him being good or bad. And it shouldn't be that way. That's why I don't advocate for ethical capitalism. Okay? That's why I advocate for a different organization of the economy. But it is kind of funny that so many motherfuckers in the chat who are like, why don't you use your wealth for good? Why don't you use your influence for good? Which I do, as many of you recognize, okay? Are now seeing someone at least say that they're doing that, and immediately their reaction is not you, okay? Any of those neoliberal scrutinizers of myself who don't understand what I do, if they dare criticize this person, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I know for a fact he was a nice guy. That doesn't mean I trust him with $1 billion. Brother, I know that. I get that. But the way that the system works, unfortunately, he gets to do whatever the he wants with it. You get it? You're just priming us for when you donate the stream to a 501c3 to help labor organizers. Nice try. We see right through you. Yeah. Of course, this doesn't ultimately solve the problem because it's still within the framework of the problem itself. If you consider billionaires to be a policy failure like he's openly stated, then he has to understand that the policy needs to change. And that policy is economic policy. It's the economic organization of society.
He's given away 1% of Patagonia's annual sales to environmental causes.
For me, it's an earth tax. It's a tax taxing ourselves for being polluters, for using up non-renewable resources.
But the climate advocate says that's no longer enough, writing, "We can save our planet if we commit to it." And that's just what Chenard is doing. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Thanks.
Unlike people like Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, he does seem more, especially with the things he said, with the things he's done so far, he does seem like more of a person who legitimately cares about these sorts of things than the profit motive.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. It is time for today's Executive Edge. The founders of Patagonia is now giving away his entire company. The apparel maker, half a century ago, is now worth about $3 billion. The privately held company's stock is now going to be owned by a trust and a group of nonprofit organizations, which will then use all the profits not reinvested into the business to protect the planet. In a letter about his decision, the founder writes in part, "While we're doing our best to address the environmental crisis, it is not enough.
Hi.
We needed to find a way to put more money into fighting the crisis while keeping the company's values intact." Now, he said that one option was to sell the company and donate the money, but the concern there was how a new owner would ultimately act. He goes on to say, quote, "Another path was to take the company public. What a disaster that would have been. Even public companies with good intentions are under too much pressure to create short-term gain at the expense of long-term vitality."
Like, that take is directly what I say. You know what I mean? He's right about that. He nails that. Of course, again, narrow framework, considering that it doesn't revolve around It doesn't revolve around like drastically changing the capitalist framework.
And responsibility. Truth be told, he says there were no good options available, so created our own. This is a story that so many people are talking about. Yep. He effectively said, I don't need any money anymore.
If he was a real one, he would restructure to give workers ownership. We all know that's the one and not this. Yeah, no, that was the first thing I said. That was the first thing I said. The first thing I said was if he was legitimately interested in like drastically reshaping society, okay, and fixing the underlying problem, then his number one thing should be to restructure the company in a democratic fashion and then still take all of the, technically you can call it profits still, right? In a democratic fashion and dump it into the 501c4. Do you get it? But in that situation, the workers would have more of a say on where the benefits goes and how much of the profits, like how much of the revenue that is getting put into this fund instead.
I'm done, which I think unto itself is sort of a fascinating decision. By the way, at one point they went down the road of looking at a SPAC about in terms of how they could raise money and what they were going to ultimately do with it.
This is a better way to keep it pure.
The kids, this to me was so interesting. His kids didn't want the company and ultimately didn't want the money. They believe, he says...
And then the workers would just vote to split the pie for themselves? I mean, technically, they're the ones who are creating the value, so it doesn't matter.
Quote, and I think this is true of this family, the kids believe that every billionaire is a policy failure. He said that.
Right.
And it was just so interesting to sort of see him. But look, he's putting his money money where his mouth is. He's living. You know, we often talk about people who are hypocrites.
Right.
They say one thing, they do something else. They're virtue signaling, this or that. This guy is living exactly the way he wants to do.
I want to help.
100% agree with you.
I want to help spend it, and I do. And I want to find. We're going to find some common ground here. So.
You want to help spend his money.
I want to help spend it on. I think that there's a lot that could be done. And I think a lot of issues get really
So now you're the U.S. government.
No, I want to help him spend it. I don't want, I think the singular focus on emissions is wrong. I think here's what I would, just let's find some common ground here.
Okay.
Water pollution. Think of the oceans. Think of our streams. Think of our rivers. I would like every person on this planet to be able to have access to clean water,
right,
where it didn't take 4 hours to get.
Yep.
Air pollution, disgusting air that's not breathable, air that's not breathable. Do you know how much waste we generate that will take centuries to go away? Both nuclear waste, plastics that are in the ocean acidification, wildlife conservation, overfishing, deforestation, overpopulation. The resources of the earth are not sustainable. I think the singular focus, honestly, and this is where we're going to find common ground. This is a Brett.
You are now the U.S. government.
No. This is Brett Baer's latest thing is common.
Like hyper-capitalists completely understand the game. She's right. She's not wrong when she says like, oh, you're now talking about the U.S. government. Yeah. Those things should be handled by the government. And the government is a representative of the system that we exist under. So, like, you're right, but that's not going to happen because the government is capitalist.
Common ground. He had Kevin Hassett and Jason Furman both on at the same time talking about, and they found all this common ground. I'm the biggest environmentalist in the world, but we need to do things that we can actually make a difference on. If India and China continue to emit, if we can...
So here's the thing, bro. Here's the thing. Okay, are you ready? That guy... Patagonia guy is working within the narrow framework of capitalism and doing pretty much the best thing you can do while still being a capitalist. And even then, this mother is like, yo, that's not enough. He should be more capitalist. What the f?
Continue to chase this singular CO2 obsession. What are any of those not good causes that are things that we need? I mean, industrial
but you can spend all
waste.
Your money on that. It's like you're deciding what somebody else spends.
No, I'm just saying if you're going to try to save the planet, those are some of the things that I think money should be directed towards. The other things, a rush to renewables, which has put us into this mess that we're in right now. A singular focus on stopping hydrocarbon production.
I would just say for somebody to put it up and say while they're living,
save the planet. What does that mean, though? Save the planet.
I'm going to give my money away to charitable foundations.
No, that's good,
but that's a great thing. I would say
there's a lot of ways to save the planet that don't entail trace levels of carbon dioxide.
To me, the larger story is about this guy and this company and what they've built. And they've built an extraordinary company. But to me, what's so interesting about it is just that he's decided not only to give the money away, but that he doesn't believe that you can actually run a company in the private sector. I mean, that's the other, to me, interesting issue about this.
It's your idea to not take the SPAC, to do it.
And he does it well. But there, by the way, there's people who think, okay, you turn it into a not-for-profit. He's now not going to be involved. Are there incentives? I don't want to say incentives align, but if profit is not the motive anymore, does that change things? I mean, I think there's some.
That's so funny. Yeah. Profit is not. No, dude. Profit is still the motive. Trust me. If profit was not the motive here, then he would have just turned his company into a cooperative. If sustainability, if sustainability within the corporate structure was his main interest there, then yeah, no, it would be a cooperative corporation. Except that's not the point. He's literally just saying like all profits of the company should just go directly into this 501c4 that will then dump the funds into adequate renewable energy initiatives that I choose, me and my close advisors choose, which of course is the sussy part, but you know, that's capitalism, baby. It is what it is. It is completely and entirely reliant on whether this guy will be a good person or not. And that is the unfortunate reality of capitalism, okay? Just the truth. Is this just a way to avoid tax for this guy? I mean, if he takes all the money and pockets it again and funds his lifestyle instead of like actually working to, fund renewable energy initiatives and shit like that, then yeah, it is a way to avoid and shelter taxes. Then it's not good. But again, it all hinges on one guy, and there is no control mechanism because the system is not designed to make a rich dude, not be able to. The system is not designed in a way where you can tell a rich guy, hey, you can't spend your money that way. Okay?
Very interesting things. And I would just also suggest, once you get into, look, as you know, I believe in all of the environmental issues that you're talking about. I don't think anyone's going to dispute those. But by the way, to get to those, there's lots of things that I would imagine are on the other side of that debate. So the circular economy, you could start, people would effectively regulate Apple and say, you can't make a new phone every year, or your phone has to be disposable, right. Right? And then, by the way, other people would turn around and say, well, it's a free market. If they want to make the new phone, they should make the new phone. You shouldn't be able to tell them how to make the new phone. So all this becomes very complicated quickly.
Here, this guy did do the same thing that Said did, by the way. But instead of doing it right before he passes, instead of doing that for the Federalist Society, he's doing it for, again, we don't know what yet. He claims that he's going to do it for conservation efforts. One small difference is that the Chenards are paying $17.5 million in gift tax on their 2% of shares that are going to a trust outside the C4, but normally a $3 billion gift would result in a $1.2 billion gift tax. By making almost exactly the same move as Said, the Chenards are reducing their gift tax liability by 98%. And avoiding income tax on any capital gains/dividends from Patagonia that flow into the C4. I happen to share the Chenards' political views and not Said's, so in that sense, there is a difference. But it can't be that when liberals avoid gift and income tax by transferring shares to a C4, it's no tax benefit, while when conservatives do the same, it's an unusual series of transactions that appear to have avoided tax liabilities. In one case, it's climate philanthropy. In another, it's dark money. Note that the phrase dark money never appears in the Patagonia story. He's right. That is true about this. It is the same system. The New York Times laying a towel down on the bed for a billionaire Dem who gave 98% of his company to a 501c4 to advance lib causes. Last month, when a billionaire rep gave 100% of his company to a 501c4 to advance conservative causes, the New York Times fretted about dark money. It's true, because there is a difference. They're both dark money, technically, but there is a difference between conservation efforts and the Federalist Society. And I personally do think that it is ultimately a good thing, or rather, it is one of the better things you can do within this narrow framework if more billionaires behave this way. However, if he still turns around and uses the 501c4 as his personal slush fund while he's like getting good PR from the likes of New York Times, then that's not good. I hope that this is something that people can understand. Wearing Patagucci right now, where's yours? No. It's labeled as conservation. Yeah, hopefully he isn't shady. Yeah, that's what I'm not saying is fucking fire. Like, we should worship the altar of this billionaire. Like, of course not. But he does seem like the type of dude who's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I just like climbing and I want to protect the environment. At least like the Patagonia actions leading up to this very moment pretty hyper focused on sustainability, not as an effort to just simply greenwash, but genuinely going above and beyond to ensure sustainability. Because it does seem like it's just something he cares about. You get it? You understand?